Beardo Benjo.
Hello there everyone, welcome back to the channel. We survived another year. How amazing is that? Welcome to my first new VR games roundup video for 2023. Now typically I make one of these videos at the start of each month and I just focus on the VR games coming out in that particular month. But I thought to kick off the new year, I'd make a bigger kind of overview video showcasing all the big VR games that we know are supposed to be coming out in the next 12 months. Now please do bear in mind, as you watch this video, these aren't all the VR games coming out this year. I've worked in kind of covering VR for 4 years now, and one thing I've learned is that most VR games release with pretty much no hype building, no marketing, they just land in our laps with almost no notice, typically 1 or 2 weeks notice and then the game is out. So bear that in mind, we will have far more VR games releasing this year. This isn't everything, but these are the biggest ones that we know of so far that I'm really looking forward to. If you enjoyed the video, please do leave a like, leave a comment and hit subscribe. Let's check out the games. If you've ever wanted to be a gangster in Birmingham in the 1920s, then Maze Theory have the VR game for you in 2023. Peaky Blinders The King's Ransom lets you fight alongside iconic characters from the hit TV show, such as Polly, Arthur and of course, Thomas Shelby. And they've even managed to get the incredible acting talent to reprise their roles for the game, so look forward to seeing and hearing Cillian Murphy in VR soon. The Light Brigade is a brand new roguelike VR shooter that mixes realistic gunplay, supernatural magic, and a gorgeous stylized art style. The guns and enemies showcased so far have a World War II era aesthetic, but the game takes place in strangely disjointed and haunting worlds that don't quite resemble any real locations, so you can expect a trippy and atmospheric journey throughout this procedurally generated adventure. Hellsweeper has some of the coolest enemy creature designs I've seen in a video game for a while. A whole host of twisted, fantastical looking beasts will attempt to end you in this hyper-fast action-adventure game. But don't worry, you're equipped with some of the slickest movement and combat mechanics in VR to date, so slicing your way through them shouldn't be an issue. This is VR for those who want the most intense experience possible. It's Doom meets Devil May Cry, and I need it in my life. Hey, I've been saying this for years. We need more dinosaur games. At one point we had absolute classics like Dino Crisis and Turok, but these days we pretty much just have the Jurassic Park builder games. That's basically all we get. So I was so excited to see Primal Hunt launching for the Quest platform in January. This looks like a brutal, bloody, gory dinosaur hunting good time, and I cannot wait to play this one. It really does look like a Turok game in VR, and that is a dream come true for someone like me. Okay, it's confession time. I have never played a Hello Neighbor game. I know, they are huge, or they were huge at one point, but they just never really appealed to me. I did like the semi-horror stylings they were going for, with the breaking into your neighbor's house gameplay loop, that kind of cat and mouse procedurally generated gameplay styling, but I never jumped in and played one. However, in 2023, we are getting a VR Hello Neighbor game, and this will be the first time that I try to sneak into my scary neighbor's house. I am quite excited. Hello Neighbor VR coming in 2023. I always get a little bit worried when a multiplayer-only VR game is announced. Now you can call me a pessimist, you can call me skeptical, but the player base of VR in general, the install base, isn't quite large enough to sustain most of these multiplayer games. Now that's not to say that some of them don't slip through and sustain over a long period of time, but the majority do die off quite quickly. However, X8 looks sharp enough and has a really cool story concept. I really want it to succeed just off the back of that concept. In this game, tons of different FPS heroes from multiple different games have been pulled into one world. The thing connecting them all is the source engine that all their games were created on. Now they're fighting to restore their original homelands. Red Flowers is the newest game from developers Joyway, and from this early gameplay footage it looks fantastic. A samurai adventure in a futuristic landscape complete with wall running, leaping and slicing enemies clean in half. It definitely looks like my kind of game. Now Joyway continue to make engaging VR products with a high level of polish, but they do have a history of moving on to the next project before fully realising the previous ones. Let's hope their New Year's resolution is to flesh out Red Flowers to the max, because it could be their best looking project to date. Now, I was a little apprehensive about putting this game on the list because it's been in the oven for years now. I think it was announced 4 or 5 years ago. This is Blunt Force, a time-traveling World War II, I believe, VR adventure that skips between everything being absolutely fine in this cafe to all of a sudden being in the middle of a high-intensity war zone. It looks gorgeous, and there was a trailer and a demo a few years back, but there hasn't been any updates since. Fingers crossed we do see something more from Blunt Force in 2023. Having played Everslaw on PCVR in its early access release, I loved how fast, frantic, brutal and arcadey everything felt. It's another new VR game that seems to be borrowing heavily from Doom, with fast movement mechanics and intensely rewarding combat. Since then, publisher Fast Travel Games have picked Everslaw up, and a standalone quest release, complete with co-op, has been announced. I've always said all VR games should include a co-op mode, and I can't wait to slice up some of these demonic creatures with a friend. Probably the most highly anticipated new VR game of 2023 is Ghostbusters Rise of the Ghost Lord, a full-blown co-op VR Ghostbusters adventure that has you wielding your very own proton pack and blaster and lets you throw out traps to catch these ghosts. Can't wait to play this one. It's coming from developer N-Dreams, a very experienced VR developer, so I'm confident it's going to be great. There's not really much to say about this one because we only have a title card announcement so far, but an official Attack on Titan VR game is launching in hopefully 2023. Makes a lot of sense. We already have a couple of fan-made games and they are extremely popular over on SideQuest. Check them out if you're interested in Attack on Titan. Another one now that we don't really have any information for, but I'm still very, very excited for, Exorcist Legion Sin, the sequel to the fantastic Exorcist VR game. The original is still one of the scariest VR games you can play, and the sequel introduces co-op, so you can bring a friend with you. You don't have to poop your pants on your own anymore. You can scream together. That makes everything better. Hopefully it can still retain the same level of terror, however. The original Propagation is still one of the best PCVR horror games you can play to date, and it's completely free. It's a static experience where you're fixed to a spot and have to fight off zombies and other horrific creatures to survive as they rush you and try to kill you. The follow-up from Undead Studios looks much more expansive, a full-blown single-player adventure game set in a terrifying hotel filled with zombies and Lord knows what else. This looks a lot more akin to something like Dead Island, and I cannot wait to get my hands on it. I'm all for more zombie shooters. I know we already have loads of them, but yeah, I love zombies. You can never get enough zombies. VR zombies are just great. Hey, speaking of zombies, Resident Evil 4 Remake is getting some kind of VR component for the PlayStation VR 2. Now this was confirmed a few months back, but it was very, very vague and nothing has been said since, which does make me a little bit worried. I don't think the entire game will be playable in VR. That isn't how they posed it when they originally announced it. It sounded like a portion of it, some kind of mode that was unique to PSVR. I don't know what it is, no one really knows what it is right now, but if it's Resident Evil 4 and it's VR, sign me up. I'm so excited for this game, and any VR component will be welcomed by me with open arms. Developer Skydance have proven their VR prowess with the Walking Dead Saints and Sinners series, but they're looking to branch out into a completely new direction with Behemoth, a fantasy combat adventure set in a frozen wasteland that sees players hunting gigantic creatures and fighting medieval foes. If Skydance can utilise and build on the systems they created for The Walking Dead, then Behemoth could be the best-in-class VR sword fighting adventure, but we'll have to wait until later in 2023 to find out more. I'm going to make a prediction right now. Vertigo II is going to be the best VR game of 2023. Or at the very least, it's going to be the best PCVR game of 2023. Every single time I see new gameplay for this, every single time I see a new trailer, I just get more and more excited. The unique worlds, the gunplay, the art style, the characters, it's all coming together in such an amazing way. If the first game is anything to go by, this is going to be very, very special. Do not sleep on Vertigo 2, and if you haven't played the original, I would urge you to go and play what is still one of the best VR games out there. Everyone wants to make the next Boneworks. A full-body rig with physics-based combat and exploration can feel so good if done right in VR, and so few games have managed to achieve this feat in the same way that Boneworks and BoneLab have. However, Into the Darkness looks like it's taking a damn good stab at it. With creepy robot foes to overcome and some very nice looking VR mechanics, it could be the best attempt at replicating this style of game to date. Originally scheduled for release in 2021, it has slipped a couple of times, so let's hope that means it will just be releasing in an even more impressive and polished state. There's definitely a trend on this list of VR games that were announced years ago, going quiet for ages and then setting their sights on a 2023 release date. Hopefully I won't be including any of them on my list for 2024. Undead Citadel is another one of these games that has been in development for a good few years now, another physics-based medieval combat brawler that pits you against increasingly difficult foes who can be dismembered and demolished with a range of melee and long-range weapons. A demo released in 2022 that was very promising and showcased some really great gameplay. Fingers crossed we aren't waiting much longer for this one. Follow me down the rabbit hole as we go into full-blown rumour territory now. A brand new VR Batman game is supposedly in the works at Camouflage Studios. Now, Camouflage were recently acquired by Meta. They are the developers of the previously PlayStation VR exclusive Iron Man VR, which is now also available on the Quest 2, and it looks like they're making a VR Batman game according to a patent or FTC court filing that leaked earlier last year. Now, I am all for more Batman VR games. The Batman Arkham VR is still one of my favourite VR experiences. It's so creepy, it's so well made, it looks gorgeous. It's just a little bit too short for my liking. So I would love a full-blown VR Batman adventure. Fingers crossed, it's true. Splinter Cell VR may have been cancelled, but work on Assassin's Creed VR is still underway and has been actively playtested by multiple people. Not me, sadly. I do want to play it, so anyone with connections hit me up. I won't leak anything, I promise. Details of a very early build of Assassin's Creed VR were leaked in 2022, but rumour has it things have moved on in big ways since those details were made public. I know a few who have playtested it, but they're incredibly tight-lipped and won't spill any details to me due to the NDAs they've no doubt signed, but it is good to know that a full-blown VR Assassin's Creed game is still on the way. Grad is such a VR gem. It's a sci-fi puzzle adventure with an emphasis on traversal and precise, unique platforming. You use two suction cup rocket launchers to swing your way through the halls of a space station whilst progressing the story and enjoying one of the funkiest soundtracks in any VR game. The sequel, Grad 2, is set to take things up a notch and is giving players two wrist-mounted Gatling guns. So now, not only will you be swinging all over the place trying to solve puzzles, you'll also be blasting bad guys as well. Grab the first Grad today if you want the coolest sci-fi Spider-Man experience ever. There are so many zombie games on this list. VR is just the new home of zombies, isn't it? This is what we get now. Years and years of endless zombie games. Drop Dead the Cabin is a co-op zombie survival shooter with a much more upbeat and exciting visual aesthetic. Instead of being coated in browns and creepy dark tones, it's covered in bright neons and rave colours that help it stand out from the crowd of endless zombie blast-em-ups. Survive the night by slaying zombies and defending your cabin using everything and anything you have at your disposal. Ghosts of Tabor aims to recreate the immensely popular gameplay loop of Escape from Tarkov for VR audiences. Load into the map with limited resources and then scavenge for supplies whilst fending off other players who are there to collect those very same resources. It's a gameplay loop that I'd love to see explored more. The sense of tension knowing you might lose everything you just worked for as you reach the end of a lengthy run can create incredible moments unlike anything in any other genre. Fingers crossed Ghosts of Tabor will be able to realise this vision when the game launches in 2023. The original Firewall game on PSVR is one of the most underrated VR shooters of all time. It managed to capture the feeling of Counter-Strike or Rainbow Six objective-based PvP scenarios perfectly, long before the market was saturated with VR shooters. However, it was locked to PSVR, which meant a good portion of the VR community never had a chance to fully appreciate it. The sequel, Firewall Ultra, is coming to PSVR 2 and seems to be building on everything that made the first game so special, whilst also utilising all the incredible new features of the PSVR 2 hardware, such as eye tracking to select weapons and haptics for gun recoil. If it's anywhere near as addicting as the first game, then I can see this one taking up most of my PSVR 2 playtime at launch. Stranger Things continues to be an absolute mega hit for Netflix, and in 2023, with the final season just around the corner, we are getting an officially licensed VR Stranger Things game from veteran VR devs Tender Claws. Now in this game you play as Vecna. Outside of that we don't know much other than what this trailer shows, but the Upside Down feels like the perfect location for a VR experience. Now, I've covered Gambit on the channel already in an early gameplay preview type video, and I have spoken about it multiple times as it was due to release in 2022. However, developers Xreal Games decided it needed a little more time in the oven and pushed it to 2023. I would completely agree with that choice. The game is a lot of fun, it's definitely more fun in co-op, but it felt like something was missing. The enemies in particular need a little more variation, and I would like to see them trying to preserve their lives a little more as they just kind of run at you. But the game is packed, and I mean absolutely packed, with unlockable guns and skins, and the co-op is a real draw here. It's a potty-mouthed, payday style VR shooter, and I really do hope it does well when it launches in 2023. Guardians VR is already available in early access on PCVR, but the full launch of Guardians Frontlines is coming in 2023, and this is a game that fans of FPS, real-time strategy, or map creation should be paying attention to. Guardians includes a full single-player campaign, multiplayer PvP, and co-op modes, but the real star of the show is the powerful level editor that allows you to create and share scenarios online with friends and strangers alike. Switching between the top-down RTS and then into first-person gunfights is a joy to behold and works seamlessly. I can't wait to see the kinds of levels and experiences that the community creates when Guardians launches this year. Firmament is the next game from developers Cyan Studios, the creators of the beloved Myst and Riven, so that means it'll be filled with puzzles that push you to your absolute limits and a world that dazzles you beyond belief. Myst VR is the best VR puzzle adventure for those who want a real challenge, and Firmament VR will no doubt build on everything that made Cyan's previous games so successful. With an original release date of 2022, Firmament just recently slipped back to 2023. Knowing the quality of their previous products, I'm sure this extra time in the oven will be more than worthwhile. Finishing the list now with 4 heavy-hitting PSVR 2 titles. Up first is Crossfire Sierra Squad. When they first announced this,
I thought for a split second it was a new Killzone game, and I got so excited. However, that excitement quickly turned to disappointment when I realised that wasn't the case. But by the end of the trailer, my excitement levels had risen again because Crossfire looks like a genuinely exciting and solid VR shooter with a proper story-driven campaign. With some seriously high-quality visuals and shooting that looks chunky and enjoyable, this is a PSVR 2 title I'm excited to blast through. You can even bring 3 friends along for the ride, as the game supports full 4-player co-op. Now, technically speaking, I've already played Resident Evil Village in VR, thanks to the fantastic PreyDog PCVR mod for the Resident Evil games. It had full motion controls, ran beautifully, and the 3D visuals were stunning. However, no mod can ever truly compete with a proper native experience built for VR hardware. Not to mention, this game has been built for the seriously high-end PSVR 2 hardware and includes new features such as dual wielding. Village continued Resident Evil's hot streak of amazing new games and fantastic remakes, and playing this one again in VR is one of the big reasons I'm so excited for PSVR 2. The clarity of those lenses paired with the PS5 power is going to make Lady Dimitrescu look so damn good. Rush of Blood was one of my favourite PSVR games. There's something really simple and effective about VR roller coasters paired with arcade shooting and some serious jump scares. I have the fondest memories of inviting friends over and throwing them into this game to see how well they fared with it. Now, I'm obviously a lot wiser these days, and I know putting VR newbies into a roller coaster game is a terrible idea, but for me personally, I can't wait to subject myself to the horrors of the Dark Pictures anthology Switchback, the follow-up to the amazing Rush of Blood. I'm particularly interested to see how this game utilises the eye tracking, as the trailer seems to indicate sections where whenever you blink or close your eyes, enemies will slowly creep closer to you. Pure, terrifying genius. The final game on this list, but certainly not the final VR game that will release in 2023, is the jewel in the crown of Sony's new VR headset, Horizon Zero Dawn: Call of the Mountain, a true visual spectacle that has been built to showcase all the new features of the PSVR 2 while simultaneously displaying just how incredible VR games can look on this new headset. Taking place in the world of Horizon Zero Dawn, you'll be playing as a new character who's embarking upon a journey to climb a mountain and overcome the many robotic dinosaur foes that stand in your way. Originally, it was thought to be a fairly on-the-rails experience, but recent trailers have shown off far more expansive sections and some awe-inspiring combat. This is the game that most PSVR 2 owners will likely play first, and it looks to be an amazing showpiece for the new hardware. And that brings me to the end of this list. As I said at the start of the video, these aren't all the VR games coming out in 2023. Typically, it's only the big AAA games, the shooters, the zombie games that really have any kind of marketing push behind them. I've learnt from several years of VR game playing and creating content for this channel that most VR games are only really announced a week or so before release. The marketing budget just kind of isn't there, so do expect many more VR games in 2023. We've got new VR hardware coming out. It looks like it's going to be a fantastic year for all gamers, but specifically VR gamers. If you've enjoyed the video, please do leave a like, leave a comment, and hit subscribe, and I'll see you very soon for another one. Take care, happy 2023, see you later.